I can't stop blinking. Yo, what's up, boys and girls? It's your boy Swolelax here, and I'm back at it again with another video, something just a little bit different. Today, let's talk about Power Bomb. So before you unsubscribe, before you click that dislike, before you go down in the comments and tell me, Swole, hear me out on this one. Now, don't quote me on this one, but I do believe it was the great poet Tupac who once upon a time said that, I won't deny it, I'm not gonna lie to you, Power Bomb ain't that great. Little known fact, Tupac was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan during the GX era, and yes, he was alive and well, as he is today. But in all seriousness, let's have a discussion about Power Bomb in 2018. Now this may sound a little harsh, but do hear me out on this one. It's coming from a place of caring and love for Power Bomb, and by extension, the Cyber Dragon archetype. And in this video, I won't be taking any cheap shots at Power Bomb, talking about how it's just not searchable, that's why it's not good, blah, blah, blah. Because I feel like that would be unfair to the card itself, because that has been a complaint since the card's initial inception. So without further ado, why do I think Power Bomb is kind of bad? Let's take a look at a couple different points. The first being in card advantage. So in terms of card advantage, it's not necessarily a problem exclusive to Power Bomb itself, but also as a design flaw inside of cards like Polymerization. At its most simple, cards like Polymerization and Power Bomb are a -2. At its most efficient, there are 4 cards at play whenever you're fusion summoning a monster with cards like Polymerization and Power Bomb. You have the fusion card itself that uses to summon the monster, you have the 2 fusion materials that you use to summon the monster, and then you have the monster. Which, no matter how good that monster may or may not be, and if your monsters don't recur you value whenever they're used as fusion material, then you are taking a loss of 2 cards, my guy, which really sucks. And like I said, that's an inherent flaw with cards like Polymerization and Power Bomb to begin with. And yes, you do have to weigh in on the risk-reward system whenever you do make plays with fusion monsters with spell cards. But I'm just making the point and saying that's inefficient. And on top of the fact that the monster you're summoning probably isn't that great, and especially nowadays, your opponent probably has a myriad of scenarios where they can either get rid of this card, negate the summon, negate the effects, yada, yada, yada. It's really not a good look for fusion-based decks inside of the current meta. Casual play? Go for it, man. I'm not your dad. When speaking objectively in terms of how these cards interact with the board and also cost you so much material in the long run, it's not really worth it. Like I said, Power Bomb is just a victim of a bigger issue. But the math doesn't lie, and also when you take into account anecdotal evidence, this card can brick hard. Unlike something like Overload Fusion or Cyberload Fusion, where you can use material from an external source, i.e. your banished pile or your graveyard, Power Bomb relies on cards on your field or in your hand, similar to the traditional Polymerization. In my personal opinion and philosophy on deck building, Power Bomb is not worth it. If you had to run it, or if you really, really wanted to run it, it would probably be a 1 of, maybe a 2 of if you're feeling lucky, but I'm not willing to take those chances, especially when I have much better plays and much better ways to get card advantage than using something like a non-searchable fusion card. And an immediate counterpoint that I do hear a lot is Machine Dupe. Yes, Machine Duplication is not searchable inside of Cyber Dragons either. However, this card is a non-searchable +1, which is a-okay with me. And then on top of the fact that when you're using this card, especially inside of Cyber Dragons, you're using it to go into plays with cards like Cyber Dragon Zeger, Summon Sorceress, Cyber Dragon Nova, and Cyber Dragon Infinity. If you asked me like a year ago, Machine Duplication would probably be a 2 of inside the deck, but because we have such good targets like Cyber Dragon Hers and Cyber Dragon Core inside the deck, Machine Duplication is a must 3 of. But why is that card okay and not Power Bomb? Well, it's not necessarily just a card advantage thing. Yes, that's a big part of it, but a lot of it does have to do with the fact that your board positioning isn't necessarily the best whenever you use Power Bomb compared to something like Machine Dupe. They're not very similar cards by any means, but when you take something like Power Bomb that is a combo ender and Machine Dupe, which is a combo extender and play starter, on one hand you get really insane boards that'll probably win you the game, and on the other hand you get a really strong machine monster that is probably dying next turn if you don't kill your opponent right then and there. If you happen to keep up with Cyber Dragon news recently, whoa, Cyber Dragons took 1st place at a YCS Japan, and it was using 3 copies of Power Bomb? Inconceivable. Oh wait, this tournament that was best of 1s? Oh wait, you mean a format that has 3 copies of Max C and Harpy Feather Duster? See, in formats like that, Cyber Dragons would thrive. It has so much good spot removal inside the deck, has a lot of really great disruptions, and the fact of the matter that Max C is at 3 inside the OCG, I can't even imagine what that's like. But most importantly here, you have to realize that Power Bomb being at 3 inside the 1st place deck is only good because it's best of 1s. The games being at 1 means that if you OTK your opponent, which in Cyber Dragons is ridiculously easy, then you win the match, handshakes, goodbye. But sure, when you look at it at a zoomed out scope, it's like, whoa, Cyber Dragon's at 1st place and use 3 copies of Power Bomb. But when you take a closer look and realize why, then it becomes a little bit less I don't know, impressive? No, it's still impressive, to be honest. It's kind of rad. It's so sick. But being best of ones, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it now. And the last thing I want to talk about in terms of Power Bond is Cyber Eternity Dragon. Now, Cyber Eternity Dragon is actually an interesting, because in fact, it's worse than I thought. I'm not trying to be a hater of this card. I actually kind of ragged on it a lot in my last video. But people were saying with Power Bond, this card's great. Look, I don't doubt that. Bringing this card out with Power Bond, it's a 5600 attack point body. If you have another fusion monster inside your graveyard, which is pretty possible, then this card cannot be destroyed by card effects, can't be targeted by card effects. Essentially what you have is a bigger, more reliable, and cooler Chaos Max Dragon. But the setup to get there is not worth it at all. Not only do you have to get rid of 3 fusion materials to summon this card in the first place, you also have to have a fusion monster inside the graveyard beforehand, and whatever that cost was, and whatever this cost was, and by the time you got around to summoning both those 2 fusion monsters, you could have made a much better board. I don't necessarily mean to come across as condescending or sarcastic about this matter, it's just, come on, guys. It's 2018, we don't have a reliable source for Power Bond, and I'm kind of tired of people being like, Power Bond's still good. Power Bond is not the worst card in the world. And in fact, this card is still amazing. But you can still be bad and still be amazing. Yeah. Like when it works, it works. But that doesn't justify the objective things wrong with it nowadays. Add that on top of the fact that it can brick pretty easily, and it's a -2 in card advantage, then I would like to argue that if you're playing Power Bond in your deck at a 1 of, or a 2 of, or even a 3 of, especially in the TCG 2 out of 3 format, in today's current meta, semi-competitively to competitively, then you're gonna have an uphill battle. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. What do you guys think of Power Bond? Do you guys like the card like me, but think it has a lot of flaws? Do you think it's still very much alive and viable inside of 2018? What is the best Power Bond play that you guys have ever made? Let me know into the comment section down below. If you guys liked the video, make sure to leave a like. If you want some more, please subscribe. Got more videos coming in the pipeline, so stay tuned for that if you want to. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'm sorry, and peace out.